One guy found all the textures they used to fake the Himawari 8 weather satellite imagery. He found that the other day. I was watching a live stream. It's hilarious. They've got all these images of these cloud textures, light textures, things that you would only use if you were texturing a composite. It's all coming out now. It's like they want you to know now. I think they're doing an experiment to see how many people have deep cognitive dissonance. I just don't want to know. I don't want to look at the video. You know, or the augmented reality. Jesus,
you should watch this video.
They've got augmented reality technology they use to well, I don't need fake fucking stupid I've seen that anyway years ago. I don't see what
no impact on your beliefs.
A comedy sketch? No, because I you know, why would I look at a comedy sketch when you won't even look at the actual augmented reality thing breaking down? You can see a guy. What?
Dude, you have no idea how much I've invested, how much time I've invested in conspiracy theories.
You haven't looked at those. They're new. I showed you them, and you refused to look at them.
Oh, that one day, I probably just wasn't in the mood for that one. I'll look at one right now, if you want. Just don't make it too long.
Hey, Kestrel.
Yo, how's it going?
Going okay. I'm actually curious what you think of the Titanic being swapped with the Olympic.
Oh yeah, that looks like it was probably a thing, doesn't it?
Yeah. I'm actually about 85% on board with that one.
They can do all this stuff. So you know, I mean, where the information comes from is just very few sources. So they can, of course, they can swap some ships around it. You know,
because that one falls under the heading of what's the answer to 99 out of 100 questions? Money.
Yeah.
I would argue 99.5 out of 100.
Always the contrarian. Yeah, that one I'm pretty well convinced of that. It's reasonable.
Yeah.
Most of them, though, I like, without firing the subject up. When you look into something like 9/11, it's like looking into a smoke-filled room.
Not really. 9/11's a pretty clear-cut case. You can see with your own eyes that the buildings fell down like a controlled demolition. The guy, you know, Building 7 is your clue there. I mean, pancake theory was dismissed by the underwriters, wasn't it? The insurance underwriters. And it's just unrealistic anyway, just that small amount of jet fuel just piling in there. And then Building 7 happening to go down in exactly the same way. And then Larry Silverstein saying, no, the decision was made to just pull it. And then everything else, you know, all the other, there's practically every turn you can see that it's just an inside job. I mean, the Pentagon, it just wouldn't have got to the Pentagon like that. A plane flying along the ground like that, a pilot, again, you know, the planes into the towers and the planes into the Pentagon, flown by amateur, by all accounts, drunken jihadis. First time, I don't think so. They'd never flown anything that size. They were just biplanes at the very most. So
well, the reason I say smoke-filled room is the details can be very difficult to discern, and whether or not the detail is accurate. I saw somewhere was talking about the altitude. It showed like an altitude graph of the airliners, and the takeaway from that I had was that they were remotely controlled, because the altitude was like perfectly flat, and then there was this very clean descent right into the buildings. There was no adjustments, no vertical adjustments to the altitude and flight after the transponders turned off. But the details are where it really gets sketchy. There's so much disinformation out there, and you're obviously aware of that.
Well, I think it just must be the way that these MBTI cognitive functions work. Because
Yeah, dude, I've seen this.
it's
Excuse me, I'm actually very tired right now, but I'll try to keep up.
Yeah, did you see the video?
Oh, sorry,
John?
Castro, I'm muted you on accident. Oh, hey, Luna. How are you?
Did you see the video, John?
Of course, I've seen it many times.
You've seen it many times?
Yeah.
It's only just come out. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know, and one of the times was when you showed me.
Okay, John. Okay.
It was like last week. No, a week and a half ago.
Yeah. Okay, John.
Oh, I can already tell you're at that point where your brain will never consider another point of view.
No, I'm at the point where, John, you've told us that you lie, and you've told us that you've told us plenty of times that you lie. Okay, and when you just told me that you'd seen it, I don't believe you.
Well, that's fine. You don't have to believe me. I'm not interested in making you believe me.
I know you're not, because you've said that you're a liar, and you admitted that you don't mind lying, and that's okay for you. I don't judge you too harshly for it. I'm just not a liar myself. I just won't lie about little things like that, just to kind of. I don't know. I don't know why you would, but it's all right. I still like you. You know what I mean? We just have different value systems, but I don't believe that you've watched it. I don't believe that the first time that I told you to do it, you watched it. What do you believe would be the
reason why I would lie about that?
Oh yeah, well you've got your own. Obviously, like you've got your own reasons for why you would lie. Of course, it makes you look like.
What I'm asking is, what do you think would be a reason why?
It makes you look like you know things that you don't know. I don't think you've seen it before, but whatever. I mean, it's clear evidence that NASA are doing things with CGI.
Okay, so what do you believe is the reason why I would lie about that?
John, why you would lie about things, I don't know. Okay, that's your prerogative. So I do think you lie. You've told us that you lie.
I'm lying
so why would you tell us that you lie? That's
reason
another thing. Why would you tell us that you lie? I can't possibly know your motivations for everything, but it's okay. I just accept you as you are. But I don't believe that you've seen that video before.
Whether or not you accept me as who I am, it's kind of irrelevant here. I'm just curious why.
Well, it's not though.
Why you would believe that I'm lying about this particular point without any, guess or assumption as to why I would lie about it.
John, you know full well nobody can inform somebody else of their motivations for lying. But like I say, I think you did it just so you could look like you knew about the information, so you were knowledgeable about it. But I don't think you were. Okay.
Oh, so it's to appear more intelligent than I am. Okay, well that makes sense.
Or informed, at least.
Right. That is a curious motivation for lying, but I can't deny I've done that before. So it's not entirely out of the realm of possibilities.
I do like you, John.
Oh, I like you too. I'm not sure how that's relevant to the conversation. So what was it about this particular movie that is, I don't know, that touches you so well? Because this is about the third time that you've linked it so far, at least in my presence.
Yeah, you can look at it and make your own decisions. If you can't see what's going on, then there's a point. There's a point where a lot of people, I think the way cognitive functions work is a lot of people, they won't be able to get there themselves. They can be shown all the stuff like this fucking CGI fucking up. They can be shown the 14K broadcast where the dopey astronaut, they claim there's like an 11-second delay, and they start off right out of the gate with that one. There's an 11-second delay, and they're faking it. And then the audience goes, ooh, and then the astronaut goes, ooh, and then he goes, ooh, because he like makes a face like, oh, fucked up. It's very obvious, and you know, you can be shown all the evidence you like, all the fact, you know, but unless NASA came out and tell you they were faking it, some people just won't. They just won't be able to realize what's going on. Like I said, that's because of the brainwashing, constant, you know, the constant EVAs, even though you can see bubbles, things like that.
Right, I understand
in the movies.
the point you're trying to make, but how are you excluded from that point that you're making? Because you're essentially doing the same exact thing that most religious fanatics do.
How's that?
Well, there's a certain
evangelical tone to it.
No, not like that. There's a certain brain chemistry that's relevant in every form of belief. When it comes to questioning someone's belief in a rational way, if the person holds tight enough onto that belief, they will exclude all possible reason to even consider changing their mind until they become more open to the possibility.
Yeah,
Now, I'm certainly open to the possibility that
let me just
fake a moon landing. However, if we did fake a moon landing, why are you capable of shining a laser at the moon and receiving a ping back? Well, I mean, we would have to set up something there.
If you look into lunar ranging, that's actually not evidence of anything, because what they do is they do the laser and they shine it at like a mile square, and then what they do is they get some photons back, and on this particular area they get a few more photons back on average than they would from somewhere else on the moon, and then they say that that's evidence of a reflector. But what it's evidence of is something more reflective. That's just a simple, you know, it could be there naturally, and we've not got before and after evidence that there was no such level of reflectivity there. So there's that. But you know, in terms of being open-minded, I don't think you'll find anyone that's perhaps as open-minded as I am. I've completely gone
even
from
myself.
believing. Well, I mean, let me dismiss the point that you made about not being open to it. I believed the moon landings. So I don't know how you could say that I'm now closed-minded, because I changed my view 100% on that.
Well, I don't necessarily. I'm not okay. To get it clear, I'm not dismissing you at all. I don't mean it like that.
I didn't say you were. The point you made was about a certain level of open-mindedness to changing. You know.
Well, right. Remember, that was in response to something you said about me, that I'm closed-minded because of my.
No. I didn't say
belief
closed-minded.
Is following the same suit as most people in my position.
No, but I think it is a fact that cognitive functions do limit people from being able to see things. I don't know whether that's your cognitive function or whether you're just on some other thing that I'm not describing, but sensors are definitely led by the nose. They have to be told.
I'm ENTP. NETI.
Yeah, what it's like, as an INFJ, we can look at evidence and see, like, it's basically, you look at all the data points and you assess the probability of each one. And the fact that all these data points come up with a high probability of being what you would see in a fake scenario, it's like getting all the numbers in a lottery. It's highly improbable that will come up without being
chances that it is fake.
You what?
Just because something can be fake, does it necessarily increase the chances that it is fake?
If you have a probability, and each one comes up at a very high probability of it being fake, and all together, you know, it's like the lottery numbers. So if you've got a high probability of getting the first lottery number, you've got a high probability of getting the second lottery number, third, fourth, fifth. The probability of you getting all of them is
gambler's
higher.
fallacy.
Pardon?
Just because you had good luck on the last round does not mean you're going to have better luck on this round or worse luck. It's the same luck. Gambler's fallacy.
Yeah, but it's not. It's not about just luck though. It's about looking. You can look at the evidence in each, and you've got so many scenarios that it's like saying, "Well, can I win the lottery now just by making a decision?"
You want to buy a ticket or not to buy a ticket? Yeah, sure, you could. But does that increase your chances of winning the lottery? No, I mean, somebody could.
If the probability for each number is higher,
if
the probability for getting each number is high, then the probability for winning the lottery is high. And the probability in each of these cases, like that video I just showed you, the probability of that being some augmented reality hoax, and the probability of everything else, when you add it together, you come up with a high level of certainty. Whereas what you do as an ENTP is you break it down. Whereas I come to the point, you guys have to break it down with your extroverted
intuition.
No, ENTPs are the opposite. That might not be, that might not be, that might not be, that might not be. And I'm like,
concepts and ideas that could happen.
That's probably.
So
we're visionaries, ENTPs. We envision many possibilities.
Exactly.
That's the thing that we do.
Not the probability.
Oh no, probability is certainly in there. That's the TI. NE is coming up with the concepts. TI is measuring those.
So Kestrel, what is it you're using to determine the probability of these things being faked?
Yeah, it's the. Well,
don't be nervous. I mean, I'm honestly just curious. I'm not trying to attack you, and I'm sure Jeremy's not. But
because when you talk about probability in those terms, you're talking about a quantitative assessment, right?
Yeah, a judgment.
Okay, but what are you using to quantify the probability that something's being faked?
Yeah, you're using your intuition, your introvert intuition.
Okay, which is good for me because I'm an INTJ, so that's my.
It seems to me that you're kind of making a feeling judgment, like.
Yeah, I won't deny that, but
okay.
If on each case you can dispute it, like the video there, if you can dispute me on each point, that's okay. I've got the TI that can.
Did you used to believe that the moon landings were faked and then you changed your position on that? Is that what I understood you to say?
No, I used to believe that the moon landings were real.
And now you think they're fake?
Yeah, but that was before I had the evidence, you know.
But you think now that it has happened, but that particular June 20th, 1969 was fake?
No, they're all propaganda by, you know.
Wait, but you just said that it has happened.
Nixon administration.
Do you think we have the capacity to land on the moon? Like
I
if
don't
we
know.
wanted to.
NASA are keeping these secrets, and the international space programs are going along with them.
Well, you would have to admit that if you think you know whether we have the capacity to do it or not, that really narrows things down. If you were, for instance, to think that we lacked the capacity to do it whatsoever, then that's going to reinforce one's belief that they were faked, right? As opposed to we can do it, we just didn't.
Yeah, I don't know any of that because you need the capacity to investigate that to come to that conclusion.
If I really cared to have a firm understanding or belief about whether or not they were faked, being able to determine whether or not we even have the capacity would certainly help in narrowing the field, don't you think?
Oh yeah, that would. And there are some people that say like you can't have rocket propulsion in a vacuum and things like that. And there's some, you know, YouTube experiments out there if you want to look into that. But I can't confirm that for myself. I don't have the facilities to do so. You know, NASA have all those things. So
I don't know.
I'm sorry, Jeremy. I just have to ask a quick question. Do you consider YouTube, Wikipedia to be, you know, credible sources?
Well, it's, you know, YouTube is a platform. Wikipedia is a platform. You can confirm whatever you like based on the information that you've got there.
Okay, so you're saying as long as they have sources and citations that lead to a credible source, then they are citable, I guess you can say, right?
Well, I've never cited YouTube other than video, which is what NASA is putting out on YouTube.
So far, it's all everything that you've shown us, at least on here, has been from YouTube.
And until you can discredit that it doesn't come from NASA, I don't see any reason why you would assume that it comes
I was
from
just
NASA.
curious.
That's okay.
Sorry,
If you want
Johnny,
to show me some, I'm open to. If you show me some, oh well, this is being, because I'm perfectly aware that video evidence of something that's being faked can be faked. That's just logical.
But what about physics? Physics isn't a platform; it's a discipline.
Pardon?
Physics, for instance. Would you trust straight physics?
Well, no, because physics, like science, is. A lot of the physics that they tell us about going to the moon, it's not confirmable, but a lot of it is, when you talk about the engineering of the machines and what have you. And by the way, don't you think it's curious that they've just turned around now and said that we've lost all the technology that we needed to go to the moon? I'll get you a video if you want with NASA astronaut Don Petit telling us that they've just straight up lost the things. And you might be a little bit perturbed by that.
Well, you mentioned a minute ago not being able to know about propulsion in a vacuum, right? Whether or not even rocket propulsion in a vacuum is possible.
I said that you brought up the issue of the capacity, which I didn't go there. I don't base my things on that because I can't show people whether or not it's possible or not.
Perhaps, but you mentioned calling into question whether or not rocket propulsion would function in a vacuum.
That was only in response to the point that you brought up, because I thought it would be of interest to what you were saying. But it's not anything that I come straight out of the gate with and say rocket propulsion isn't possible in a vacuum. I already said there's people who do YouTube experiments on that.
Well, if you could confirm that it wouldn't work in a vacuum, that would really go a long way to reinforcing the capacity argument or lack thereof, right?
It would,
demonstrate on paper with physics that rocket propulsion can't function in a vacuum, then that undermines the entire proposal that we've gone to the moon. Because how could we have gotten there if it doesn't function in a vacuum?
Right.
Yeah, well, I think that somebody could write a paper on that, but unless it's the same thing as we're dealing with here. Most people, unless NASA just came out and told them, or a bunch of other people, the government just came out and told them, it wouldn't mean anything, because they've got all this other evidence, like movies with satellites in and things like that, and rockets, and movies about going to the moon, and movies about NASA, and it's beyond their comprehension to fully accept that now.
But these are movies, and movies we watch all the time. They fake all kinds of stuff in movies in Hollywood. But when you're talking about the underlying physics, the principles of physics, you can completely shore up and hedge your position if you can demonstrate that the physics do not support the claims being made.
Yeah, I mean, to some extent, I agree, but it's not like that. Science doesn't have a problem with bias.
True.
And you could only, obviously you would have to demand experiments, and the only people capable of such experiments, really, because the way that the rocket propulsion works is they say to add the oxidizer. Now, adding oxidizer to the solid rocket fuel ignition is something that requires a level of technical ability that
But that's independent of whether or not, on paper, rocket propulsion in a vacuum should or should not function. That's a separate...
No, it's not, because the form of rocket propulsion that they uses oxidizer that adds the atmosphere.
You're talking about jet engines. We're talking about rocket propulsion. Have you seen any credible source that says that rocket propulsion does not work in a vacuum?
No, but yeah, that rocket propulsion is what they use to go to the moon, right? And to say they go into space. Rocket propulsion in a vacuum in space would require oxidizer. I don't know if you were aware of that. And
you're
it
talking
doesn't
about
require it on Earth.
You're talking about a specific
on Earth because there's an atmosphere that allows it to have the chemical reaction to explode. But that's why they have this oxidizer that gets added in.
So you're talking about a very specific implementation, though, of it. Let's take a balloon. If you were to take a balloon into space and it didn't explode, just as a thought experiment, if you take a balloon into space and punch a hole in it and the balloon doesn't completely rupture, it just starts spitting out the contents in one direction, do you expect the balloon to move?
Pardon?
Like if you take a balloon up into space and you were to take your hands off the opening of the balloon and the contents of the balloon start spewing out in one direction, do you expect the balloon to move in the other direction?
He's getting at Isaac's third law.
Those particles react differently. A balloon
There's no chemical reaction. Space. We're not talking about chemical reaction. We're talking about displacement and force.
Yeah, you're talking about a balloon, which
Newton's third law. That's what it is.
You're talking about a balloon which, by its nature, stays in the atmosphere. If a balloon was in space, you would have the molecules would be expanded.
Yep.
To a degree where the balloon would be burst. So if you're talking about a thought experiment, then I can't do that thought experiment with you.
Let's say the balloon were made of a material that could withstand the pressures of that expansion and would contain the contents.
Yeah. That's a thought experiment that's beyond my comprehension because I don't have the thoughts. You know, I've got the thought. If you wanted to do it in the atmosphere, I could go there with you. Do you know what I mean? But I can't. I don't have any mental evidence, you know, to push that analogy, that experiment along with you.
Well, just to simplify it as much as I can, and I'm really not trying to be condescending here. It's Newton's third law. Every action creates an equal and opposite reaction. Yes. Now, in space, regardless of air or not, a chemical reaction will cause force, which means that whatever force this is applied outward, it will make an opposite reaction, and that's how or opposite force. Excuse me. And since space has very little force being applied to anything, basically just gravity, it will propel the rocket forward, or the opposite direction of which the chemical is spewing.
And the chemical reaction is incidental. The expansion of the material is what's causing the force.
Right.
I mean, with the point here is that would the rocket propulsion system work in a vacuum, and when you've got the aperture through which the fuel comes through, I mean, some people say that all the fuel would just be sucked out.
Would that push the rocket forward if all the fuel were just sucked out?
I don't know.
Because in actuality,
you're the one that, I mean, it doesn't. It's not whether it works in a vacuum or not. It's never one of my arguments. But you brought that up. But I'll just.
The reason I bring it up is because if you can demonstrate that it doesn't function, then all of the details beyond that become irrelevant, and it makes it a very easy way for you to hedge your position.
I would agree, because if you can't really demonstrate that. Oh well, in the particular with the rocket fuel, with the particular kind that they used, then yeah, it would be. But like I say, I don't have any of those resources, and to be honest, I don't need them, because I can see that all this, there's mountains of evidence, and just the basic fact alone that the Satanists and the Nazis and Richard Nixon got together and made some propaganda, and if you're good at reading body language, you can see all these things, and what was the computer program? There's tons of things, but if you look at this video, this guy lying to your face, of course, that we don't have that technology anymore.
Do you mind if I ask you something really quick? Now, it's a question of vaccines and all that. Now, if we have, just say, fuck it, 4 billion people who have taken vaccines, and there have been no negative impact on those 4 billion people. Throughout all these tests that we've administered in studies, so far nothing says that vaccines have any issues whatsoever causing problems. Now, what if one test comes out that says, in fact, they do cause problems? Does that mean that vaccines cause autism or problems, I should say? Does that mean that applies to every vaccine that has ever been administered?
Why are you asking me this?
It has to do with the mentality you're taking regarding evidence.
No, it doesn't.
To the contrary
it
of
doesn't reflect what I'm
what
saying
this
at all.
conspiracy
There's tons
theory
of
is.
evidence.
It's a demonstration of
there's also
confirmation bias.
Yeah, it's confirmation bias. It's okay.
There isn't one
there may
case,
be-
though.
there may
It's not
be-
one
Kestrel,
case of
Kestrel,
NASA
hold on.
lying to you. It's from the
Kestrel.
very beginning.
Sean, please. There may be mountains of evidence to say to the contrary of the factual basis of anything, but regardless, there are boundless numbers of, well, not boundless, but many more times the evidence to say that in fact they are real.
No, what's the evidence to say that they are real? The only evidence to say they are real comes from, we're talking about the moon landings again, comes from NASA. There's only one source. And, there's...
Now, when you say not real, you're talking about whether vaccines are effective or whether or not they're dangerous.
Whether or not they're dangerous.
Okay. Because I was going to say evidence
because-
that they function, the almost complete eradication of polio is pretty good evidence.
Well,
that
yeah,
they
that's
function.
that's incredible evidence. But the real question I'm getting at here is, just because one thing necessarily says that is just because one thing says the opposite of what everybody else is saying, does that increase the likelihood of it actually being fake, or does it just simply?
Well, John, the one thing, I don't know what the one thing you're talking about is. I've not referred to just one thing. There's mountains of
Okay.
evidence.
Then let's say there are 1,000 things that that say something is wrong, but there are 1,000,000 things that say it's right. Does that necessarily increase the chances that it is wrong?
Yeah, because if somebody's lying to you and they're just showing you a bunch of videos and telling you and showing you a bunch of rocket launches that curve off and then appear to ditch into the sea, then it's not the same as medical evidence where you got 4 billion to 1, is it? If I say that if I tell you that I'm going to the moon, let's do a direct analogy. If I tell you that I'm going to the moon, and if I make a bunch of videos where I'm bouncing around up there, and there's even video of one of the guys on land saying it's all fake, they'll break the world before they break the cable this time. And then if I show you a bunch of, me being in satellite bouncing around on cables, right? And then if somebody shows you me putting some invisible object from one hand into the other, and if I tell you that I've lost the technology to go back again, then and then if you find out that I'm a Nazi, a Satanist, and that Richard Nixon was helping me do it, then you'd probably have a problem with it, wouldn't you? But since it's the government, and since it's the scientists, then
What about things in orbit? Do you think that we've put things in orbit?
it doesn't look like it, to be honest. No, it seems
what
like.
What if you could see it with your own eyes?
Yeah, if you could see the ISS, it could be that I want to do some experiments with that.
So if somebody
that-
said to you, the ISS will be flying over your head at this date, at this specific time, and you have a good enough telescope and there's not too much scintillation in the atmosphere to completely obliterate its form, and a space shuttle were docked with it, or in this case, a SpaceX shuttle were docked with it, so you could actually make out these objects with your own eyes using optics, and somebody could predict and tell you exactly where and when to look to see it with your own eyes using these optics, would that change your conviction whatsoever?
Well, there's only a few people. If it were that easy, there's only a few people on
It is that
YouTube
easy.
that have actually done it.
No. There are not a few people. I have done it. Many of my friends have done it. It's something you can do.
You've not seen it docked. You can do it.
You can
in
do
the
it
level
with
of
a
detail.
Walmart telescope.
But the
Yeah.
question is, if you saw it with
The
your own
reality-
eyes, would that compromise your convictions at all? Or would you have to
well,
adjust?
I've got no doubt that there is something flying up there. I just don't. I'm not sure that it's in Earth orbit. It seems to be. It could well be a drone, a high altitude drone, and
so basically, what you're saying is that no matter what, you're going to reach
like
for
John
the
just seen
contrary.
a dot.
You're going to come up with a contrary explanation no matter what, in order to reinforce what you.
You know, all of a sudden, my being allowed to use extrovert intuition to solve certain problems is not allowed. Okay.
Nobody said it wasn't. No.
It's not unfeasible, is it, to use a drone?
No, it's not.
If they put things in low Earth orbit, that's great. I just don't think they don't put people in low Earth orbit. That's for sure.
But my question didn't address what you're allowed to or not allowed to believe. It's simply for your your own convictions. Would an experience like that compromise your convictions at all, or would you immediately try to seek an alternate explanation?
About that particular issue about whether they can put things up that high. I don't. Right. It seems that the calculations that they're giving us for the radius of the Earth, for the curvature of the Earth, are incorrect. That just seems like they had a program where allegedly Stephen Hawking, was doing a Earth's curvature demonstration using a laser, and they got a boat and they sailed out, but they did it wrong. They just straight up did it wrong.
How do you know?
Because you can see that it's like they claim there's 6 foot curvature, and it's not reproducible. On the other hand, you can see, like for instance, where I am, you can see an island 60 miles away over the water, but that according to Earth's curvature calculations, the accepted Earth's curvature calculations, you shouldn't be able to see that.
So you made it as a statement of fact that it's not reproducible?
So let me get to a point. It seems to me that, given I don't have the means to do these experiments, what they're saying that the Earth, that is the Earth's curvature, may not be the actual curvature of the Earth. And, I don't know what is up there. I don't know if you were to be able to put something 200 miles up. They might have the technology to put something 200 miles up and fly it around, but that may not be Earth's. That may not be low Earth orbit. That may just be extremely high altitude. Do you know what I mean? Because we don't have, at the end of the day, the ability to go and confirm what level is space.
Well, low Earth orbit and extremely high altitude are essentially the same thing.
Well, yes, but they're, at the end of the day, they're different. They're different when it comes to they're different when it comes to aerial, aeronautics, because you couldn't fly. You can't really. There's no atmosphere in low Earth orbit, whereas you can get high altitude planes.
The Earth's atmosphere actually extends beyond the moon.
Yeah. It's just extremely thin at that point. It's like 1,200 miles above the Earth.
This is information that we've been told. This is the point I'm making.
Falling further, the speed at which you are falling matches the speed at which you are moving horizontally. That's all it really means.
17,000 miles per hour. I don't buy that they're going that right. If you look at the SpaceX launches, they show you some angles from just above the rocket bell, and you can see this. They call it mylar, don't they? I call it tinfoil.
When you say you're not buying that, that's what's happening. Are you saying you are contradicting it, or you simply don't accept it?
It doesn't.
Are you saying it's not true, or that you don't believe it's
reasonable to me that these things start off very slow. Drop their solid rocket boosters at about what appears to be a couple of miles up, and then
accounts
carry
for the
on.
ditching in the sea.
Pardon?
And the stages that are detached from the rocket, the boosters at the bottom, that could account for the ditching in the sea, because they do fall back into the sea.
They drop them off, and it doesn't seem, if you look at footage of the shuttle. There's some footage online of the shuttle, the American space shuttle, anyway, launching, and you can see it from a plane. It's being viewed from a plane.
I've seen one launch from a plane, 1997.
Yeah. So you'll have seen it immediately start curving off. Now, if you start curving off from the ground and you continue curving, and you can see it with your eye, almost horizontal,
Yeah,
then
I've seen many launches.
ain't going into space.
See, I grew up in South Florida, and whenever they would especially do a night launch, everybody would collect on the beach and look northward towards Cape Kennedy and watch the launches. I've seen probably a dozen or so with my own eyes.
Yeah, but you've not seen it go into space.
Well, there's no way that I can confirm that it goes into space. There's no way also for me to confirm that it didn't.
And what he's saying by that is no piece fell into the sea. So where did it go from there?
What? No, they just fly it out. They just fly that. They just fly that out of your eyesight.
So are you claiming gnosis and knowledge that they're faking it, or are you simply asserting that you don't believe it and don't accept it? Because these are two different things.
Yeah, because I don't think, the way I can process things is that I can look at all this fakery. Like, I don't know if you looked at that video of this guy telling you that we can't go back to the moon, the technology was destroyed.
That's ridiculous. And the technology is not destroyed. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I mean, we can certainly.
Well, you're disagreeing with NASA astronaut Don Pettit, who's speaking on behalf of NASA, so you have to take it up with him.
We flew to the moon with technology that was like much cheaper or much more stupid than even our phones. So
well,
I mean, of course,
stupid,
you can go back to the moon.
You say it was stupid, but it was 100% success rate. So just
Well, one try, it was almost a failure.
Well, Apollo 13 was a failure, and so was Apollo 1.
There you go.
Yeah, Apollo 1. That's a good point. The guy hangs a lemon on, does a press conference, then he accidentally dies. And then Thomas Ronald Barron, the safety inspector who did a report, then also dies on train tracks.
See, the wise position to take is to acknowledge that you don't know, but you don't believe, as opposed to asserting that you do know that these are faked.
No, it's not, because the only thing that would allow you to know that it was fake would be someone else telling you. Whereas I've assessed all the information. And the probabilities of it turning up is just, real is infinitesimally small.
But why would you necessarily believe someone just because they're telling you it?
Yeah, like NASA telling us that they went to the moon.
Wouldn't you just, do
I don't know.
research?
That's the way that you guys need to process information.
You mean based on evidence?
The evidence is all the evidence shows you that they didn't go and that they're faking it. I mean, come
all
on.
The evidence.
All evidence.
You've only seen videos that you don't have any evidence that they did go.
To be fair,
you
don't know what I have or have not looked at, read, or seen.
Right.
Nazis,
and this also goes back to the concept
Nixon.
I was trying to get through to you about the whole. Just because some say otherwise does not mean the whole is fake.
It's not some saying, it's direct evidence that you can observe. You can observe the evidence. You can observe the lying. You can observe the ridiculous fakery of the spacesuits and World War II era cooling systems and micrometeoroid impact reducing felt layers. And the idea that these people should be bouncing around up there with a backpack in the cooling system, that's going to help them in 100-degree heat. It's silliness. You can either assess the likelihood of that being real or you can't. And I think that at this point, I'm thinking that some people just won't be able to realize until they're told outright.
Let me ask you a question. I'm curious. If, let's say you were up in space in a vacuum, and let's say you got thrown out of an airlock into the vacuum, how long do you think it would take for you to freeze?
Well, that's an interesting one because they could do. I mean, I've got no idea about that. Again, we're doing thought experiments for which neither of us have actually got the real world records to create that in our imagination. However, you know, that's another one. They don't actually show us. They could show us all kinds of experiments pushing water out into the vacuum, you know, push water.
Okay.
And they tell us they've seen that, by the way. They say, oh, it looks amazing. It looks amazing. Sometimes it freezes, sometimes it evaporates, sometimes it does both. That's an exact quote.
Let's take
but
it.
they never
back a
show us
step.
that.
Let's
They
take
never
it back
show
a
us
step.
video
then.
of that. That would be the greatest video, you know, the same way that they never climb out of the ISS and then give us a 360 of Earth and the curvature. They never do that.
Okay, let me take it back a step then. If you were thrown out of an airlock into the vacuum of space, and let's say you were in the Earth's shadow, so you don't have solar radiation as a factor, what mechanism do you think would be involved in you freezing?
What's this question? I don't. You're asking the question like, you know, that you don't know the answer to.
I do know the answer
he does.
to that.
He's
No, you
asking a
don't.
physics
Yes, I
question.
You think you know the answer based on what you've been told, but NASA have never ever shown you even water in space freezing.
It's physics.
if-
you can do it with math. You
if
don't
you're
even
gonna-
have to go to space.
If you're
the
going to
math is
maintain that
based on the
position,
information that you're told about the nature of the Earth and the height of space, etc.
Kestrel, if you're going to maintain that position, then you're basically advising us to not believe anything that you say.
Maintain what position?
What we've been told.
Yeah, you can you can make all the decisions you like on your own. But what I'm saying is that it does appear that is how other people make their come to their decisions.
How does
I'm not saying believe what I say. You can look at. I can provide you the evidence. You can make your own decisions. I'm not saying at what point have I ever said believe me just because I say that's a silly thing.
Kestrel, what is it that's happening when something gets cold?
Well, what's the relevance of this question? Is it Jacob or
Jeremy.
Jeremy? Right. Okay.
Yeah. How do things get hot? How do things get cold? What's occurring? Like when you put something in your oven and you have your oven turned on and that food in the oven gets hot, what's happening?
Jeremy, how is this relevant?
It's very relevant.
But it's not relevant at all, is it?
It's very
You
relevant.
couldn't give me a line of reasoning. You could just say it's very relevant. You can't actually tell me if it is or not, because I can refute it. Actually, go on.
No, Kestrel, I apologize, but this is the first step in a line of steps that are extremely relevant to the situation. But really, there
Whether or
shouldn't
not
be
something
like
gets
3 or
hot
4
because
more
of
steps.
radiation or convection.
Ultimately, the relevance is me determining whether you have a basis for evaluating certain possibilities.
No, it's not. What you're doing is you're saying, do you have an understanding of the type of physics that what NASA tells you is in space?
Not exactly.
No,
Don't put words in my mouth.
That is
No,
the
that's
step
what
you
you're
would
doing. I'm not
take
putting
to
words
get
in
to
your
this.
mouth. I'm analysing what you're saying because it's
Trying
inescapable.
to get to the
You're
the
trying
point
to
of rational
refute.
thinking.
You're trying to refute the validity of anything that I say on the grounds of something that NASA told you again.
Not exactly.
No, it's just math.
Actually,
it's regardless of
you're
NASA.
coming out with these things like, not exactly, don't put words in my mouth, but
Mm-hmm.
you could reason. You could add a reason string to that, which would show me that how, not exactly, but it is exactly, because that's what you're doing. That's what you're contingent upon.
See, what I believe and what the way that I evaluate whether or not something is true or possible, maybe possible is even a better word to use, is to use intellectual tools to make a determination. If I just made the claim that I can jump 50 feet high, you have intellectual mechanisms to immediately determine if I'm full of shit or not. Would you agree?
No, because you could, if you could provide some evidence for that.
The only evidence is the
look,
claim.
You're starting with the presupposition that I'm arriving at my position because somebody told me. That's as if I'm doing that. That's as if you should be doing that. Nobody's saying that you should be doing that. If you could jump 50 feet high, good for you. But I'm not really going to believe it until you show me some evidence for that. And if you show me some video where it looks to me like you're using CGI, or better yet, let's make an analogy. You're using CGI and that CGI fails, then I'm not going to believe you.
But if I said I
Okay.
could jump 6 feet high, you would
guys,
believe
guys.
me, right?
Kestrel, I understand you feel like you're being
you're
that's
6 inches high
completely
right now.
fallacious. That in no way have I ever said anything like that.
You mean to me? No, okay. What I'm saying is, I understand. It's almost like
Holy
the two of us
shit.
are teaming up on you, and I don't
Cramp
mean
in
it
my leg.
to.
Fuck. It's unbelievable cramp in my leg. Wow.
Okay, yeah, so you're done.
No, I'm not. Go on. I just had massive cramp. My leg just fucking. You're
That's
talking
right.
about jumping. My fucking leg just fucking spazzed out.
See, the point I'm really trying to get at here is that you possess intellectual mechanisms for evaluating claims. And if a human being says to you they can jump 50 feet high into the air, you have experience which contradicts that claim. You can immediately say, that does not happen, right?
But a human being, possible, well, in and of themselves, it's unlikely.
Yeah,
But,
exactly. That's good enough. And what I'm saying is that there are intellectual tools that one can use to evaluate certain claims. And the reason that I brought up freezing in space and how long does it take to get cold, why does food in an oven get hot, is because there's certain mechanisms for energy transfer. There's conduction, convection, and radiation. And in a vacuum, you cannot conduct or convect heat out of an object. Therefore, radiation of heat from an object is the only mechanism for something to get cold, to lose thermal energy. Do you believe that or not?
Let's assume that. Look, again, this is why I don't think you like where I'm coming from, because you have to admit that everything that you're talking about relies upon things that you can't confirm.
Are you a solipsist?
No, but you can't confirm what's going on in space. So
that is irrelevant. He is talking about plain math. You don't even have to go to space to do this.
Can you confirm anything that's going on outside of your brain?
Well, you can confirm whether NASA are lying to you. There's lots and lots of evidence out there. And I think that you're the one that's actually taken it to solipsistic place by asking me to confirm various, banal scientific evidence that we know. Okay. And I think what you're trying to do is just completely distract from the issue that you can't prove that stuff is going on in space.
Is that the issue, or is the issue that you can confirm enough for your own convictions to believe that it isn't?
You what? You have to say that again, Paul.
Is the issue that I'm trying to assert that I can confirm these things, or that I'm asking questions about your ability to make sound convictions about what is not happening?
Well, I'm not making any scientific arguments. The arguments are logical arguments based on evidence that's being provided to us through NASA.
And logical arguments used to support solipsism.
Unlikely arguments about like spacesuits. It's just you want to talk about radiation and stuff like that, and there is ultimately no relevance of that topic.
So basically,
you want to talk. You're not talking about space now, are you? Let's just define that. You ain't talking about space. So
whether it's space or it's on the Earth is actually inconsequential. The same principles apply.
May I ask,
you don't know that.
Are you certain that Jeremy and I are our own unique people?
What?
As in, are you certain, beyond a reasonable doubt, that you are your own unique person, I am my own unique person, and Jeremy is his own unique person?
Anybody that takes it back to solipsism has lost the argument. I do believe that. But you can intellectually masturbate all you like. If you've had to say, oh, well, it all goes back to solipsism, then that's cool. No. You believe that. That's okay.
I just asked a question. I didn't make that assertion.
No, okay, well, Cashel, try to keep in mind.
Anybody who falls back to that is...
It's not that it's not that we're wanting to go back all the way to crawling, It's that, I don't know about Jeremy necessarily. I'm just trying to express what I'm saying. It's very difficult to make a complex reason, a rational train of thought with somebody who is denying a particular law of physics or a law of math or any particularly proven subject. So therefore, we have to go back to that step and prove that that is correct before we can continue.
And agree upon it.
I don't know what law of that you're saying that I've denied. The law of NASA. I don't.
Thermodynamics.
Thermodynamics, for one.
When did I deny
Newton's
that?
third law of motion or gravity.
Well,
Or whatever. I can't remember.
I don't recall denying that. I think that's something that you might have
recorded
and decided to go along with, but
keep in mind this is all recorded. We're having a very interesting debate. And Anna INFP is the bot. That's the raw room bot. This will be on tomorrow, or the day after that.
I know all this, John.
But okay, what I'm saying is you've denied the fact that you've denied or haven't had an answer for Newton's third law.
What do you mean haven't had an answer?
The second
John?
law of thermodynamics.
You keep harping on about this third law of yeah. You've not actually said what I've said. I would never challenge that because it can be proved on Earth, can't it?
Well, yes. So can math. So can thermodynamics. So can
a
whether
bunch of other
something.
things that are irrelevant, John. Stick to the topic.
No, they're extremely relevant. They're
What is the
entirely
topic?
relevant to this topic.
What is the topic?
So you don't know what the topic is. We're talking about NASA and whether or not they're liars.
Okay, that's a complicated subject, and we're trying to whittle it down to singular points.
Well, that's maybe where you've got lost, and maybe you want to look at the, since you're lost. You guys are clearly lost. We could just.
Oh, is this the part where
side.
the fanatic says, read the book and, that's.
This is the blue screen.
Yeah. All right, that's all right.
Because see, all recourse that we try to take gets called irrelevant or whatever demeaning term you want to come up with.
And Kestrel, I don't mean to condescend you at all. I really don't.
Conversation at this point, isn't it? But it's when you come to something that you can't even look. If you want to tell me how I've denied the third law of thermodynamics, then I'll say, okay, that's how I did that. But you can't. So don't pretend that we're in a situation here because of something I've done. You've got a bit lost along the way, and that's okay.
Is that honestly what you believe?
You could go back, like I say,
or do you just feel like you're on the defense?
You can go along and see where I've denied Newton's laws.
Okay. Well, let me refresh. When we were talking about the chemical reaction of not even that, bursting a balloon in a vacuum. Doesn't even have to be space. Bursting a balloon in vacuum. What direction will the balloon move?
Yeah, well, like I say, if you want to take it back to that question, and we've covered that, I don't have, and you don't have, I believe, enough understanding of the vacuum of space to create a thought experiment by which you can have any reliability about what would happen in that scenario.
Yes, we do. Now, what direction do you think it would move?
Well, that's a claim. How can you?
No,
you don't have any evidence of.
In fact, it's proven.
You've not existed in space for your entire life. You've not been creating.
I didn't say space. I said in a vacuum. We have many times created vacuums on Earth. Now, for instance, your thermos has a vacuum in it.
You're going to take it to space, aren't you?
Well, you have to take the baby steps. If you have to learn how to crawl before you can walk, right?
But space is different to a vacuum on Earth.
No, it's not. Now, in a vacuum, if you burst a balloon, what direction will the balloon move?
I think if you put a balloon into a vacuum, it will just burst, won't it?
No, it'll expand, but no. So let's say just in a left, right, up, down. Obviously there are 6 dimensions to that, but there are 3 dimensions, 6 directions. But regardless, say you poke a hole on the left side of the balloon. Which direction will the balloon fly?
Well,